It's Locked On NFL Thursday. The season is getting down to the end. A lot of fantastic games, starting with the Thursday night football matchup between the frisky Jacksonville Jaguars hunting for the AFC South and the New York Jets trying to hold on to their playoff spot. We'll discuss that game. Then, who is the NFL MVP right now? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it Patrick Mahomes? Or is it a different name? I think me and Alex have some good selections to give. And then finally, we'll go over the best games of Week 16 in the NFL. All of that and more on a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Let's roll.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Football fans, as always, very excited to kick off the NFL weekend with you guys for a Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. It is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. It is Locked On NFL, Monday through Friday, free NFL content on all platforms all year round. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you do stream. I am one of your local experts, Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans, with Alex Clancy, the local expert for the Locked On Cardinals podcast. We are excited, man. It's December football. Christmas time is here. It's going to be a great weekend. This matchup, looking at this game before the season, you would not have thought that this would be one of the more intriguing Thursday night football games on the schedule. But the 6-8 Jags are playing their best football. Trevor Lawrence is ascending into superstar status. They're looking to rip that division away from the pitiful Tennessee Titans. And the Jets have played great football despite their number 2 overall pick from just a couple of years ago not playing very well and getting replaced. If you told Jets fans that Wilson would be benched for a portion of the year, I don't know if they would think that the Jets would be 500 this late in the season. So, Alex, with both these teams being much more entertaining than we expected coming into the year, how do you think this game goes? Who would you rather see in the playoffs, the Jets or the Jags?
Who's starting for the Jets in the playoffs?
Zach Wilson. Well, you would hope that Mike White is back by then.
Okay.
You would hope.
So if it's Mike White, I'm going to say the Jets. And there's a couple. Well, first of all, I never thought that I would say a sentence that read, "I miss Mike White." Like I never thought that I would say that. But
right.
he's electric. It's so fun because we know nothing about him. We know that he came in last year. He blew the roof off for one game. He did the same thing this year. He almost brought the Jets back against Minnesota. Marched them down the field for a tying score. They didn't end up winning, but like Mike White plus Garrett Wilson plus that defense led by C.J. Mosley and Sauce Gardner and others, like
right.
Robert Saleh's got something cooking in East Rutherford, and I would love to see Trevor Lawrence ascend, as you mentioned, and continue because we need that next crop to replicate what the current crop has done. And there's a lot more uncertainty with them than there is with our current one. But, the game on Thursday night, I want to see Trevor Lawrence just go to East Rutherford. It's cold. It's New York. It's gross. You go in there as a warm weather team and get a big win to continue this momentum. Like, that's the bigger story here. Trevor Lawrence is the biggest story between the two teams because he was the number 1 overall pick, one of the best recruits to ever come out since Andrew Luck. Like,
right.
I want to see, but if you're going to ask me who I'd rather see make the playoffs, I want to see Mike White and Garrett Wilson and that defense over the Jaguars.
I think that this is strange, but I think that if the Mike White-led Jets got into the playoffs, they would have a better chance of making like a baby run, maybe like winning a game, maybe winning 2 or something like that in a crazy way. But with that being said, I'm going with what you mentioned already, the story. I want to see Jacksonville ascend here. I want to see them rip that division away from the Titans, who have won it by default almost over the last few years. Trevor Lawrence with real coaching. And it's funny, I forget who the Jacksonville Jaguars player was, whether it was Rayshon Jenkins or someone else on the defense. They asked him, what's the big difference between this year? And he said, I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's coaching. It's just coaching. We've had talent. And they have a lot of talent on that team. It's unfortunate that their starting left tackle, Cam Robinson, is going to be out now for the rest of the year, but they have a solid offensive line, some solid wide receivers. I don't think they're anything incredibly to write home about, but they have guys who can make plays. And I think that with all the young players on that team, the story, they're going to be playing so feisty and they're going to be so excited for what they're able to do. I just think it would be a much more interesting playoff situation to have Jacksonville in instead of the Titans. Even though I'm someone who covers the Titans fan, all that, whatever, I just realized from an NFL perspective here for the rest of the fans, watching Jacksonville kind of take that step up and see Trevor Lawrence take that step up with them. And like you said, it can start tonight against the Jets in a cold weather environment. If Trevor Lawrence can go in, win this game on national television, use that to boost the Jaguars into a win over the Titans in Week 18, into a playoff berth, I think it would just be excellent entertainment from an NFL perspective. And that's kind of what I'm hoping that we see. But with that in mind, we have a very fun discussion. We are just a couple of weeks away from the end of the regular season. Jalen Hurts, who's kind of been the favorite throughout the year, just got hurt. Jalen Hurts got hurt, whatever. Who is going to win MVP? We're going to get some help from our friends at BetOnline to check out the odds on some of the biggest names. Before we get into that, though, do want to tell you guys that today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. You'll be able to find an episode of The League available right now as a bonus episode on the Locked On NFL pod feed. It's narrated by Super Bowl champion and legendary smack talker Richard Sherman and rising star Taylor Rooks. It's an 8-part docuseries about the most bizarre, inspirational, and unlikely stories connected to America's favorite sport, pro football. Head over to the Locked On NFL podcast feed for a bonus episode of The League, or catch the full series wherever you get your podcasts. Available now. Audible. Get in the game.
Welcome back. Locked on NFL Thursday. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Tyler Roman, Locked on Titans. We together make up Locked on NFL Thursday. Thank you for making Locked on NFL your first listen every day. Make sure to check out Locked on Sports today. The biggest story in sports, the biggest stories in sports around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked on's take of the day. Locked on Sports today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. With Jay going down with injury, most likely not playing as we're recording this. He is trending towards not playing on Sunday, even though there's an outside chance that he might. It kind of puts, so say he doesn't play on Sunday, it kind of puts a little bit more of a wrinkle into the MVP race for the 2022 NFL season. Now, if he were to have played throughout the year, it would be hard to, vote against him by some people to win the MVP because he's been masterful this year. Neither Tyler nor I think he should be the MVP, regardless of if he's healthy or not, which is an interesting other wrinkle. Tyler is going to run down a couple of the odds right now. This was post-injury from betonline.net. The favorites, top 3 or 4 favorites to win the MVP, and then we'll give our thoughts on who we think the MVP is through 15 weeks.
Yeah, so right now the favorite is Patrick Mahomes again. Like Alex said, these odds courtesy of our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline, where the game starts. Patrick Mahomes, minus 300, the favorite right now. Then Jalen Hurts has slid down to plus 350 is the second most likely. Josh Allen at plus 500 after that. Joe Burrow at plus 900. Then we get to some non-quarterbacks. Justin Jefferson at plus 10,000. Tyreek Hill at plus 17,500. Alex, who is your MVP? And is there anybody on here other than the favorite who you would wager some money on?
The latter, no. The former, Patrick Mahomes. And I said Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
when the season started. I said that they shouldn't crown Justin Herbert and Josh Allen for doing things before they've done them. Patrick Mahomes has done all of them. Joe Burrow's made a Super Bowl. They made a they were not on the Super Bowl radar midway through last season. They ended up making a deep push. They ended up making the Super Bowl and was, one sack away from potentially winning it with Jamar Chase cooking Jalen Ramsey on the outside in the last play of the game. Patrick Mahomes is doing the most with the least. Okay. The most valuable player in the NFL is obviously going to go to a quarterback every year until things change, unless things change. And Jalen Hurts has the best defense in football. He's got the best offensive line in football. Joe Burrow may have, when they're all healthy, the best 1, 2, 3, 4 punch in football with Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. Okay, and Hayden Hurst when he's healthy is an honorable mention. And the defense is a lot better. Yeah. Okay. Patrick Mahomes is doing it with maybe the weakest roster that he's had since becoming quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. So his numbers are incredible. He's incredible. They're leading the division. I think it's a no-doubter at this point that he should win MVP.
I think right now you're right, and that's why he's the favorite. Now, I agree with you about everything that you just said there, so it's hard to say that Patrick Mahomes isn't going to win the MVP or isn't the favorite. But for the purposes of the question, you said, no, you're not going to bet on anybody. I do have someone that is an underdog here on this list who I think would be a very good value bet, and that's Joe Burrow. So a couple of different things. If the Bengals find a way to win out and are on a 9-game winning streak heading into the playoffs, and they get some help from Kansas City and Buffalo, and the Bengals get the number 1 seed in the AFC, Joe Burrow is going to win MVP. And one thing else to consider is Pat Mahomes has won MVP before, and I know that this isn't necessarily fair or right, but there could be some Pat Mahomes fatigue. Maybe he didn't win MVP the last couple of years, but he's won it before. He's won a Super Bowl. We crown Patrick Mahomes all the time, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. He is the best quarterback in the NFL. But I think if the Bengals get the number 1 seed, win 9 games in a row, and look how they've looked. Tom Brady just knocked off Tom Brady. They beat Pat Mahomes already this year. If the Bengals get that number 1 seed, which right now they're a game behind, the Bills and the Chiefs are 11-3. The Bengals are 10-4. If the Bengals can find a way to get the number 1 seed, Joe Burrow will win MVP, and he'll deserve it as well. So I think at plus 900, Joe Burrow is a pretty good value bet, I would say.
Yeah, no, and I agreed. And he's as advertised. He's after that week 1 debacle. It was against Pittsburgh, right? 4 turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks in a row. I think they played Dallas week 2 and got manhandled, and Burrow looked awful.
Yeah,
those first couple of weeks.
And they're allowed.
He's missed Jamar Chase for a while. T. Higgins has been in and out with hamstring concerns. The offensive line took a while to gel, and if maybe that he doesn't get MVP credit for this, but Zach Taylor took half a season to figure out how to use play action and have a run game for Cincinnati. So all of that going on, Joe Burrow has been a constant. He turned that team around totally. He's turned them around this year, and I think that he at plus 900, the 4th guy listed. I mean, that's some pretty good value when all you really need is the Bengals to win, the rest of their games, and the Bills and the Chiefs and the Bills even, because if the Bengals and Chiefs tie, the Bengals would get the tiebreaker because they beat them. So there's a path here for the Bengals to win the AFC. And if they do, Burrow wins, and that's why I think it's such good value.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like Patrick Mahomes being such a heavy favorite is kind of surprising. I mean, minus 300 that's like Baker Mayfield going number 1 overall 2 hours before the draft when it dropped to minus 500 out of nowhere in Vegas. Like, it doesn't. That's not.
It's like Jalen Hurts' line. Do you see how the line moved between the Eagles and the Cowboys within like an hour because some dustings of Jalen Hurts' injury? It went from like 1.5 to 5 in like 30 minutes.
Yeah. And, Josh Allen, like, it's funny because players that play in cold weather, they get hurt by this because the numbers aren't going to be as sexy when you're playing a negative whatever, wind chill, or whatever it is in Buffalo. Like, it's different. Now, I will say that I do think Patrick, he's just the best. He's just the best. And until he's not, he's still going to be. It's my Tom Brady argument. But what Joe Burrow did against Tom Brady, like you mentioned, coming back in a overwhelmingly dominant fashion towards the tail end of that game. It was just, he's got it. There's no question that Joe Cool's got it, okay? But I just don't think he's the MVP.
Burr.
Sorry?
Joe Burr.
Oh, I can't. I'm never gonna do that. I'm never gonna do that.
Oh, I hear it all day long. I'm in the heart of Bengals.
Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Tyler Rowland, Locked On Titans. We make up Locked On NFL Thursday. Thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Tyler's favorite segment of the week is coming up next. Best games on the slate for week 15. Week 16? Week 16. Week 16.
16, man.
Where did this go? This sucks.
I know.
Can we just take a second?
I know.
It happened again. It happens every year.
We're having the Sunday scaries.
You appreciate the NFL the first 3 weeks and the last 3 weeks. And the rest of it you take for flipping granted. I'm talking to every single one of you because we all do it.
Yep.
Let's appreciate the last 3 weeks like we're supposed to as we rip next Locked On NFL. BetOnline.net. As my esteemed co-host mentioned, that BetOnline's got the odds for MVP. And the fact that Patrick Mahomes is minus 300 still kind of shocks me a little bit. Regardless, get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league.
Go bet on Joe Burrow.
Yeah, plus 900. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup, which has just ended, which was arguably the best final ever, even though penalty kicks are stupid. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love a sports podcast, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And, the holiday season, we'll get serious here for a second. It's important. This is really important. The holiday season, people like to ingest adult beverages, maybe other, recreational things, just like marijuana. Okay. Do you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Okay. Driving high is considered driving under the influence. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means driving high can get you a DUI. And if you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're wrong. Your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell, even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes
Santa can tell.
Yeah. Exactly right, Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know that you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you're fine to drive when you're high, you're not, because the bottom line is if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI, paid for by NHTSA.
Football fans, it is time for my favorite segment of the week, the best games of week 16. Before we cap off today's show talking about those games, do want to thank you guys again for making Locked On NFL your first listen every day. As Alex told you earlier, make Locked On Sports today your second listen. Peter Bukowski, Peter is great, man. Brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Alex, every December week feels like excellent football games. And I see some great ones on the schedule. And my first pick, even with a potential MVP candidate likely to sit out, I think the Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys is a fantastic football game to watch. Gardner Minshew is no joke, okay? I think Gardner Minshew behind that offensive line with those weapons and that defense, Philadelphia has the best roster in the NFL, bar none, in my opinion. It's not even close. And I would put the Bengals and the 49ers right underneath there. But I love the Eagles roster, and I think Minshew is a good enough quarterback to win that game. So I think Cowboys versus Eagles, even without Jalen Hurts, is still going to be excellent television. I'm very excited to watch it at 4:30 on Sunday.
Yeah, so
or Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
So I'm conflicted about the Cowboys because as you know, I've been high on the Cowboys this year. Not high like, oh, they're going to win a Super Bowl, but it seems like they figured it out. And it got away from them in Jacksonville because they didn't initiate, stick with, and be relentless running the ball. Like, that's how they're going to win. Slow the game down, run the ball with your two studs, and have Dak be situational passer. Like, that's how you win, okay? And I know that ball should have been caught in overtime, okay? The pick six was off a deflection, off a wide receiver's hands. Having said that, there should be 0 passes in overtime if you're the Cowboys. So the fact that they don't know that their bread and butter is running the ball with the two studs that they have makes me worrisome. Having said that, I think that they'll get a dub because if they don't, it's going to pretty much undo everything that's happened all year for them. Now, for me, my big one, you didn't even know this last week. It's like you don't even know me. Who am I the biggest truther for? I ask you again. Jared Goff. They are the best story in football right now. And it's not just about this year. It's about the potential for future winning. Like, if you ask any of your Lions fans, Matt Derry from Locked Online, how could you ever, in the history of Liondom, be as excited about the Lions as you are right now? Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford, doesn't matter. This is the most electric offense that we've seen from the Lions in a very long time, and the defense is starting to come along. I want to see, Lions are must-watch TV for me every week. So you go to the Panthers, they get a W, you go to 8-7, who the hell knows? I don't know if any team would be comfortable playing this team in the playoffs. Like, it's not, I mean, they're not one of the better teams in the NFL, but you also don't want to face them. It's kind of one of that, it's kind of one of the weird things right in the middle. So them going to the Panthers, even though it seems like a weird one, that's a big one for me. And then the other one is, I want to watch Brock Purdy do it again. Like, Washington in San Francisco, I want to watch Brock Purdy do it again. And he's done it. Okay, yes. Christian McCaffrey, it helps. He's throwing touchdown passes. It's not like he's 8 for 11 for 92 yards at the end of the game. Like, they're using him like they use Jimmy G, probably with a little bit, tighter playbook. But still, they have the trust of him being an NFL quarterback, calling the plays down the stretch where they're in line for a high playoff bid. So those are the two for me. Do you have any more?
Okay. Yes, I do have one more. And for me, the big one is Seahawks at Chiefs. Yeah. So the Seahawks have kind of gotten in a little bit of a rut here and aren't playing their best football. The only thing I think that could get them back on track, keep them in the playoff race here, is to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. The Chiefs, vulnerable. Last week, almost lost to the Texans. I mean, I don't think they're playing their best football right now. So this is an opportunity for the Seahawks to go in, get right, and I think they can score and keep up with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have allowed, I saw a stat today, they've allowed the most 20-point games to quarterbacks in fantasy football. They're the number one matchup for quarterbacks in fantasy football this year. I think that's perfect for the Seahawks who want to run the ball and throw the ball. I don't think the Seahawks have a cornerback who can deal with the Chiefs have a cornerback who can deal with DK Metcalf. So Travarius Ward's good, but I just don't think he can stop Metcalf. But or Travarius Ward plays for the 49ers. Sorry, getting the wires crossed. But they don't exactly that. They don't have him. They don't have a cornerback who can take away DK Metcalf. So I think that the Seahawks and the Chiefs is going to be one of the more entertaining games of the weekend. And so that's what I'm looking for. You got another one?
Yeah, there's just one more. I mean, so here's the thing. And Aaron Rodgers, okay, just go with me here, okay? So Aaron Rodgers is now an underdog, okay? But for people who love how do you not love Aaron Rodgers as an underdog? Let's clarify a couple things. Number one, he made this situation happen. All of it. He orchestrated all of it. So the fact that he's pretty much by his lonesome on Rogers Island, he did this. So the fact that the Packers aren't as good as they've been in years past is because he took a lot of money, he cared about nothing else, and this is where they are. Okay? Having said that, I want to watch Green Bay going to Miami, a team who's been reeling. They've been playing, they played good teams. Okay, they played the 49ers and Bills 2 of the last 3 weeks. Okay. If Aaron Rodgers and that ragtag wide receiver group and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon go into Miami and beat the Dolphins, I will be rooting just for Aaron Rodgers to make the playoffs. Okay, because it'll be a great storyline. It'll be a great storyline. They play the Lions in week 18, I believe. That could be for a playoff spot. Okay. I want to see if Tua is fraudulent compared to what he was in the beginning of the year. I want to see if they can win a grounded out game where they don't put up a 40 burger and both wide receivers don't have 200 yards receiving with the Dolphins. Like, that's eye candy to me. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to why. I want to see Aaron Rodgers go into Miami and win. Like, that would be such just like a large Kajinga's moment for Aaron Rodgers, even though I loathe, him and what he stands for in the NFL.
Right. I think that's going to be an absolutely entertaining game, and I can't wait to watch it. And I hope you guys are excited for the weekend ahead. Some great football games, some great times. Hopefully for you guys, everybody stay safe. Have a good time out there. Enjoy yourselves. Be responsible as well. We know that matters. Talking to you, Alex. And make sure that you guys come back tomorrow for Locked On NFL Friday. Going to be Chris Carter and your boy Q breaking down the rest of the schedule. That's going to do it for us today, though. Enjoy the weekend of football.